the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the Bank Plus studio.
You are listening to
Mississippi's #1 sports talk show, The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming worldwide live on the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9. The Zone.
Right, the Out of Bounds Show brought to you by the Bone-In Filet at Kessler Prime and the Renaissance. KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. You can watch the show right now on Facebook. Search the Out of Bounds Show, or YouTube, search Out of Bounds Sports. I have the National Championship Trophy, Mississippi State Baseball Trophy to my left. It'll be to your right if you're watching on the cameras. Love for you to invite you in, watch the webcast, watch the show. We're going to take it up to another level. This fall, it's already been great. Our guests join us on the Modelo guest line. We welcome in Steve Robertson, the Boneyard Podcast. 247 Sports, genespage.com. Steve, what is the latest on defensive lineman at Mississippi State, Jordan Davis's injury in the scrimmage on Saturday?
Yeah, not a lot new to report just yet. I hope we get some clarity, in the next day or so. But it was not a pretty scene by any stretch of the imagination. It was actually pretty late in the scrimmage, and if I remember correctly, Davis is coming off the edge, and Albert Reese, a freshman, they engaged. Davis goes down somewhat awkwardly, so it was a contact injury, and then immediately he kind of grabbed for his lower leg. Yeah, and then the trainers came out, and, of course, we're sitting a good bit away from him. But it looked like initially they were addressing his ankle. Now, that's not to suggest in any way that it's not a serious injury. I mean, because, he could break an ankle and be done for the year too. But they didn't put him in an air cast. They came out and actually got him up on his feet with some assistance. But he did have weight on both feet as they prepared to put him into the cart. And so they put him in the cart. His left leg is extended. His body language didn't look, really good. But, we've checked on it a little bit. At this point, nobody has a whole lot to say. But it is very much a concern, at this point on Monday morning. We just really don't know what to expect at this point. Of course, there are people out there that are speculating that it's an ACL tear. But I would caution people not to run with that sort of stuff, because if you remember when Jaden Wiley got injured in the spring game, that a lot of people said, he was done for the year, and it was a minor MCL sprain, and he's full go in fall practice and for the season. So I think it's just best that, rather than go with speculation, let's wait till we get some official word.
Steve Robertson on the Modelo guest line. Jordan Davis goes down in Saturday's scrimmage, starting defensive lineman for Mississippi State. Some believe that he could play in the NFL. Let's just say he's lost for some period of time, Steve. What does that mean? Who are the next two guys in the rotation for MSU?
DeMonte Russell's got to really step up, and actually the first couple practices, Randy Charlton and Jack Harris ran first team at defensive end, and Charlton's kind of a swing guy. He played defensive end there at Central Florida. His body type is a little more, leans more towards an interior guy, but he's a guy that's probably capable of playing on the weak side there. But Jaden Crumedy is a guy that's played some on the strong side. And so, you've got some options, and that's probably where State's probably in a better position this year to absorb a loss like this if it ends up being a season-ending type deal, because you have, better numbers. You don't have the experience perhaps that you'd like, but this is where getting a guy like Randy Charlton helps, because he gives you some options where you can move some people around.
Woo! Okay, so do you expect to know something today, or do you think this thing could bleed into tomorrow on Jordan Davis, Steve?
Well, I hope to know something today, but, here's the thing, too, is, if it is a knee injury, more times than not, they give it a day or two before they do, the big MRI. That could happen today. And Leach is really, really, really coy when it comes to injuries. He wouldn't even talk about vaccinations, and so
right.
They did give us some clarity on Wiley, because that was good news. And so my thought process is hey, if it kind of leaks out today, it's probably good news. If it doesn't leak out the next day or two, it's probably bad news.
Okay. All right. Give me your one or two big takeaways from the Mississippi State football scrimmage.
Well, I think Mekhi Polk is really challenging Jaden Wally to be the best receiver on this offense. And that is big because you know what Jaden Wally can do. And now you add a guy on the outside like Mekhi Polk that really takes ownership of the football whenever it's thrown in his direction. I think, he's the guy that consistently gets open, and really was impressed with him the last 2 weeks. And then, Tyrus Wheat is a guy that they struggle to block. It doesn't matter if it's a first-team O-line, second-team O-line. He lines up at the left, lines up at the right, comes to the middle. It just doesn't matter. And I don't think that's an indictment on the offensive line. I just think it demonstrates that Tyrus Wheat has taken a big jump. And we expected that to happen this year, and it's good to see it because in the event that Jordan Davis is not full go or is lost for the year, you're going to have to generate some pass rush from somewhere. And I think Tyrus Wheat is a guy that's probably poised to have a really big year for Mississippi State. He has been a consistent performer in camp every single day, whether it be in individual drills, whether it be positional drills. You kind of get a sense that he gets it, that he understands this is the money year for himself. He's got a chance to go make some money, and he's practicing with that in mind, and that's been really, really encouraging.
How did the MSU offensive line unit look?
Well, I thought the ones played pretty well. And I think there's a comfort level with that first five. The second group, it's a lot different. Reed Bias is a guy that had been competing there, and he's banged up a little bit right now, but he'll be back. But when the ones are out there, they more than hold their own. They're creating big holes when it's time to run, and they're over 75-80 play scrimmage, you're going to give up some plays. But
Sure.
A lot of the sacks actually happened against the second team unit. And even a little bit deeper. But, I think Mason Miller would like to get maybe 8 guys ready to go. You're starting 5 and then, probably, a swing guy and then another tackle on a guard. And I think they're probably at this point probably more worried about that third tackle spot than they are anything else. I think Scott Lashley actually performed pretty well. He's had a good camp. He only missed 1 day, a little bit nicked up and banged up, and he was right back out there the next day. And he's a guy, too, that's got a lot of ability but doesn't have a lot of snaps. And so if he can come along, I think it helps a great deal. But, Carson Williams has run some at second-team right tackle. Nick Jones, a guy out of East Mississippi Community College, is a guy that I've heard mentioned that is really kind of making – a move there with that second group and could potentially be that third tackle. So we'll see how things progress. But again, the ones look good. The depth still kind of a work in progress with the second unit.
Steve Robertson on the Modelo guest line. Will Rogers, I heard there were 3 or 4 drops in the game, and all in all, he looked good. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't want to take a shot at anybody else. And I see some of these other people's observations, and I kind of wonder if we watched the same scrimmage. I thought Will looked to be in command of the offense, so he did have some drops, but a couple times he held the football too long. A couple of those sacks are on him, and let's be honest too. I mean, sacks in a scrimmage. I mean, you run up there and touch somebody with your hand as you're passing by, and they call it a sack. But I thought Will looked to be very comfortable. Chance Levertich did some nice things, but a lot of that, is he's out kind of extending plays, and a lot of times he's getting outside the pocket and checking down. So you get some good completion numbers. But I just felt like down the field, Will was the guy that just had a little more confidence. But I'll be honest with you, when you look ahead to the future, Sawyer Robertson got 1 series and took him right down and scored and laid up a nice touchdown pass to Teddy Knox. And that's one of those things you look at and say, you know what? We feel really good about Will right now, but I think we really got a special guy in the pipeline of Sawyer Robertson.
We'll leave it there. Steve Robertson, 247sports, genespage.com, bringing you updates throughout the day on Mississippi State football. They may have something on Jordan Davis in the next few hours. Thanks, Steve.
See you.
Steve joined us on the Modelo guest line. You can watch the show on Facebook. Search the Out of Bounds Show. You can also watch the show on YouTube. Search Out of Bounds Sports. We have the Mississippi State Baseball National Championship trophy in the Bank Plus studio today and tomorrow at least. And we're excited about that. So you can take a look at it. I can't wait till Blake gets a picture with it. Back in a second.